Yo, yo, yo.
Yo, 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 what it do, what it do, what it do. And we're back.
We're back.
We're back.
For what?
Episode 2 of Is Child Support Fraud?
Is it?
Is it? I mean, I believe so. Well, yeah, I believe so. How about you?
I don't really believe. I just know.
That and when I said believe, that was something I thought about. It's like yeah, okay, but
Yep.
yeah.
So tell me what you got going on, man, with this child support, this fraud.
Right now, the main thing that since episode 1 was released is there's been a lot of talk about, is child support actually voluntary? And
Right.
it's like there's a lot of people on the fence, and if it's voluntary, how come they putting people in jail? If it's voluntary, how come they suspending your license? If it's voluntary, how come? And I get it. Like I understand. So like this episode, we wanted to just put that to bed.
Okay, we can do that. So what do you think? Oh, by the way, y'all know me as One Credit Guy. I'm in the building. So is child support voluntary? Because we get mixed information, especially on our page. We get mixed information. People think that, okay, well, if it's voluntary, why are they doing that, right? So we did some
Research,
some reading, and we discovered a few things of why we make that statement and make that claim that it's voluntary.
Right.
One of the reasons being
So let me just frame this out. Child support has regulations that they must follow. They have guidelines.
correct.
And in these guidelines, these are federal guidelines that they must follow. And it outlines everything. And now in this guideline, particularly in the Code of Federal Regulations, it says, it has a chapter, establishment of paternity. So what that means is this is, in order for child support to open these cases, they must establish paternity. Now, in this regulation, when the federal government and Congress put in place on what Title 4D, child support services, what these states must do in order to establish paternity, so there was no confusion, Congress put they used the word voluntary 20 times in this regulation, in this procedure.
Now that's significant, though. I mean, their regulation is something that they wrote. They used the term voluntary
20 times.
Basically, they're just trying to tell you, look, man, this shit is voluntary at the end of the day.
Come on, man.
So what we're saying is corrected, unless you can find somebody that can debunk that. But yeah, I mean, this is the. Do you know what code that is, or that one particular 45 CF?
So it's 45 CFR 303.5, establishment of paternity. Now, in this, they outline some key things that the states and child support, they never do.
Of course not. They just, so basically that kind of gives you an understanding of what they should be disclosing when it comes to the voluntary paternity establishment. To establish paternity, it's voluntary.
It's voluntary.
Just letting y'all know that. So,
and when they open these cases, it says that they are to afford due process safeguards when establishing paternity, meaning that they must follow the law, the regulations that Congress has put in place when establishing this paternity.
But we know that they don't do that. I mean, that's very important. Y'all have to understand. I read it. I read it several times.
Yeah.
And it's a whole bunch of jargon in there. And they got this one line. It's 4 words, 4 or 5 words. afford due process safeguard, right? And then they go back into a whole bunch of bullshit, right?
Right.
Because this is how they like to do things. They will shake the cage, you know what I'm saying, and see what happens. That afford due process safeguard is very important. So not only that they're telling you, okay, look, it's voluntary, but at the same time,
you have to
we have to
abide by the Constitution and afford these people due process.
Due process.
Now, for the people that don't know, due process says that no United States citizen shall be deprived of their life, liberty, that's freedom, or property without due process of law. They are guaranteed the right to be heard and a right to a fair trial.
Now, but okay, and this is where they call it the waters get muddy, right? This is where it gets muddy, y'all.
It started getting muddy
because they're reaching their tentacles. Well, we call it the separation power doctrine. You guys need to check that out. You know, one branch of government reaching over to another branch of government.
You said it's called what?
Separation of powers.
The separation of powers. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I remember this back in school. Separation of powers. So you mean something like the executive branch,
right?
Judicial branch,
right?
Legislative branch,
right? And the fourth branch, administrative. But it's kind of like the administrative process is like Pluto.
Yeah.
I think
you're right.
It used to be a planet, but then they dwarfed it. Now it's like, oh no, it's just a.
That was good.
Yeah,
I like that.
You know, so yeah, it's one of those situations where they're administrating these processes based off of the Social Security Act that was never enacted a positive law. Just wanted to throw that out there. Now, going back to this voluntary paternity establishment, they have to participate. They got to have, the state has to have these companies, because they all companies and corporations, have to volunteer and participate in these programs, right? So not only that they use the word participation, voluntary, and program. Those are keen words that we have to understand what they mean contractually. We have to understand what voluntary means. We have to understand participation and program. So if it's voluntary, could you unvolunteer the process because it's voluntary? And they say it's voluntary several times, and they got to have the hospitals, public or private, to participate in the
voluntary establishment of paternity.
Right.
So and it specifically targets. It says that you are to target them and to get the parents to volunteer for this program immediately before or immediately after the child is born.
That's correct.
In the most vulnerable state.
Right.
When a child is being born.
Right.
You come in, like you said. Oh, whenever you get some time, you're just going to fill this out.
Right.
And you're like, okay, I'll get to it. But what they fail to do in that process.
Before you get there, I see where you're going. Before you get there, shout out to the women that bear these children.
Right.
And you guys understand where we're coming from when you're exhausted, tired, whole bunch of chaos and drama. You just birthed this beautiful child. Someone walks in with scrubs and whatever, and they roll in the cart with paperwork. Of course you're going to sign it. You don't want to be bothered. They say birth certificate. So when they walk in here, they say, we're just registering for the birth certificate. And of course we, the woman and father, volunteer to do it without what though? Because
without disclosure. That's where the problem comes in
right there.
Because I've said it before and I'm gonna say it again. I'm sure everyone is watching has purchased a car before.
Right.
When you purchase a car, at the end of the transaction, they give you this long CVS sheet of paper.
Right.
And this is all the disclosures of what the consequences, the responsibility, the entire transaction is in this disclosure.
Right.
And then when it's crazy, when they going over it, they'll actually speed up that process. They'll be like, okay, so this right here, this means such and such, 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 such. Just go ahead initially. This right here means such and such, 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 such. They don't even let you read it. They'll just breeze it through. Oh yeah, this one right here means such and such. So at least they're trying. They're giving you some sort of inclination of what this is actually saying.
Right.
But in the hospital, they don't give you that due process right.
No, they don't.
They just come in there and when you get some time, just go ahead and fill that out.
Now, I want to say this, because we read that, when they do that, what does it specifically says for them to do?
Oh, I pulled it up. Here we go. So, and I don't see in these situations, I don't like to just go off ahead. I want to read exactly what it says.
And before you do that, I just want to let y'all know, we're not attorneys. We don't pretend to be attorneys. This is for educational purposes only.
Right.
Go look up the information yourself.
So, it says 3, procedures. Procedures for a simple civil process of voluntarily acknowledgement of paternity, under which the state must provide that before a mother and putative father can sign a voluntary, so voluntary was already used twice, before they can sign a voluntary acknowledgement of paternity, they must be given notice orally or through a video or audio equipment and in writing. So they say you must notify them verbally, by audio, by video, and in writing, of the alternatives to the legal consequences and advise you of your rights.
Okay, that's a mouthful there. And the reason why I want to go back to that, because they say something right that's very important. They're supposed to at least give you or notify you the legal consequences of signing the damn document, aka birth certificate.
The birth certificate.
They're supposed to let you know the legal consequences of signing this shit that's supposed to be voluntary. So how can something have some type of legal consequences if something is voluntary?
That don't make sense. I mean, before we actually read this, you've always said, how can you have an obligation to participate in something that's voluntary? How make it make sense. Make it make sense.
So it's wordplay. Once again, contracts. We all in contracts. Rather it's implied, right? Or expressed.
Yeah. So they go about it many ways to get you to
contract
to unknowingly volunteer into this program. Like it literally says the word voluntary 20 times throughout that regulation. 20 times. Just Congress really wanted to make it clear. This is voluntary.
Right.
And doing so, you must abide by due process safeguards.
So they got you in different ways, 4 different ways. I know paternity is one. The other one is obviously putting yourself on it or through marriage contract. It's automatically there. Getting that social security number. Yeah. Yeah. We addressed that on another topic, but really it's contractual in nature. Everything that we're doing is contracts. But not only that it's contracts, you have rights. You have rights.
You have the right to contract publicly and privately.
Absolutely.
You have that right.
Right. And we advocate for, obviously take care of your children, because that's the most important thing. But we're not talking about the children. They use that as bait. They use that as the emotional thing to kind of get people to destroy their families. This
That's
is
a
just
fact.
bottom line. Because in that 45 CFR 303,
Point
that
five.
point five, that right there clearly shows you and tells you that it's voluntarily that they just basically tell the hospitals, hey, look, can you participate in this program and get the punitive father or alleged father and the mother to agree to sign these documents? But you have to notify them of their legal consequences if they do volunteer,
Also, it also
which they don't do.
No, which they don't do. And it also says, also, in addition to that, it says they must provide the opportunity to speak with a trained staff to clarify and answer these questions in regards to, because we presume that people will have questions and need clarity
Exactly.
of legal consequences for something that's voluntary. Why would someone volunteer for something that may have legal consequences? We presume that people are going to have questions, so you must give these people that opportunity,
And
which
so-
they do not.
They don't. So most likely they will tell you to seek legal counsel. Okay, but the consequences that they don't disclose is. Do you want to throw some out there?
Suspending people's drivers, or not a driver, suspending your license,
Suspending your license,
putting a freeze on your passport,
putting a freeze on your passport,
income withholding orders to your
income
job,
withholding,
bank levies, going in
Bank
taking all of
levies,
your money
taking
out
your
your
money.
bank, putting a lien on your name,
putting it on your
jail
credit,
time, putting it
in
on your
prison,
credit.
in jail time, bro. So imagine if the common folks, the reasonable person, had this sent to them or told to them before they signed up. Hey, look, man, you might go to jail. Oh wait, we might take the money out of your bank account without you knowing. And even if you did know, you can't get it back.
There's nothing you can do about it.
We're gonna take your driver's license that most likely you need to make a living to support your family. All this shit will happen if you sign this paperwork and default. That's something that's voluntary. So once again, social media, shout out to y'all. Shout out to the platform. Shout out to our followers. Shout out to the people that fuck with us on this knowledge and this information. Because that's all we trying to do is just spread the information
That's
so
a
we can
fact.
start reading and basically taking care of our family in the private. Because out here in the commercial world, they're savages. And these people will
That was a
honestly
bar.
be very dishonest with you. Most of the people that's doing this work, if they not attorneys, they just employees, they work for the company, whatever. It's just a career for them. They think they're doing something honest. They think they're doing something that's typically is supposed to be right because what they use is your children. And
Right.
when you use your children
Why-
to lead,
Why don't you want to take care of your children?
there you go. You're going to say, well, yeah, I do. I mean, so yeah, sign here.
Right.
Sign here. And that's the most dishonest way
Bro.
that they have done.
That's just like the young lady that was on the Instagram page, the Department of Social Services, who was in the comments. Remember what she was
Yes.
saying? Well, your situation is an isolated.
It's isolated.
It's an isolated. No, at first she was saying, no, they are judges. What do you mean? They are. I signed. First she said, let me calm down. Initially she said, I signed those documents. So you work for a law office and child support services, and you said you signed the documents. Then she went on to say, well, a judge actually signs them. I know that they are judges. So you saying that they're not judicial officers, I know that they're a judge. So then I provided information to say, hey, just to educate you.
Right.
She said, she came back, well, that don't even matter. Well, your situation is an isolated event. So this is the training that they give to them when you are confronted and you're presented with evidence to show that you are in the wrong.
Right.
Go to the default.
Exactly. What's the default? They default is
It's an isolated event. It ain't everybody.
or we don't give legal
We
advice.
don't give legal
right?
advice.
Listen, we got a guest coming up soon, and when you hear this situation, you're gonna see we not biased.
Right.
I just don't fuck with child support because those people are being very dishonest. Whether they know it or not, they're implementing things that's very harmful to you and your family. And we all know this because We see it in the comments. We see it every day. We get the consultations.
Facts.
All the time. And we know this is not an isolated situation. His situation was fraud, extrinsic fraud, period, point blank.
The entire child support system is fraud in itself because of the incentives program. Just the Title 4D program in itself alone, the fact that they are incentivized to put people on child support, and the states, you're being held liable in a state hearing where the states are incentivized to put you on child support in the first place.
So there's incentivized money, monetary money, to put you on these programs.
Right.
That's called a kickback. And if you very versed in information, you know in some industries, kickbacks are illegal.
That's a
When you're
fact.
dealing with real estate, when you're dealing with certain parts of certain industries, you can't accept certain things on the behalf of somebody that's illegal. So how is that not illegal? Just you get a kickback.
The fact that the reason why it's not illegal, in which it says something in here as well, it said you must give these people, you must follow the due process safeguards, whether you're in a judicial or administrative process. Meaning, whether it's judicial or it's administrative, you have to give them due process. The reason why they get away with it, because these hearings are not judicial. They are administrative. So they can do whatever it is that they want to do, and they work under prima facie hearings, which means who's first in line. That's what we're taking as true and correct.
Right.
And it is your burden to provide evidence to show that what they filed is not lawful. So
now that we got some of this information out there, that you guys can do your own research, you can see that we're not capping. This ain't no cap. This is all facts. We're dealing with a system that manipulate us, right? And all we trying to do is just travel down the road, minding our business, have our children without being interfered with. That's the whole reason why the Constitution is there, guys.
That's a fact.
Y'all, we sitting up here. Hey, look, that's another. I can go
on and on,
but,
as Erykah Badu said, on and on.
But yeah,
on and on.
So they're very dishonest when it comes to this. They have the hospitals and things like that, the marriage license and things like that to help them out. They have the Social Security Administration to help them out, which is the Social Security number is part of their program, right? So pretty much all of it. And child support comes from the Social Security Act. So look, if you guys gonna have these type of programs out here, look, they're voluntary. So you can so they hold you to a standard. Understand that they hold you and I to a standard. If we sign a bank statement or we sign a mortgage, we sign something with our name on it or whatever, they hold you to that.
Yeah.
For example, when we go to a restaurant and you eat and you've ordered your food, the bill don't come out. It's implied, guys.
Right.
It's implied that you're supposed to pay the bill before you walk out because they performed.
You came and sat down and said that you wanted to
What
eat.
if I said, shit, that was voluntary? I mean, damn, you open the door, y'all. Ain't nobody give me no, hey, I ate. I'm leaving.
I didn't ask you, did I have to pay?
Yeah,
I just came and sat down and you came and brought me all this food.
Right. You know what I'm saying? Free refills? Shit, what's going on? Look, they hold us to a standard. So why we can't hold these public servants? Because we the people.
Right. We the
I
people.
represent the people.
We the people.
So we got to hold these public servants to a different standard, and it's not reverse, guys. We the people. We are the people that's supposed to be in control, not your public servant. That's like I'm the CEO and the employee telling you what to do.
Yeah, because they took an oath. They took an oath
right hand high
to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America.
And just to switch topics real quick, not topics, but just kind of get on another note, because it's still dealing with the child support is fraud. Is child support is fraud? We have a guest coming on.
Okay.
I don't know if you want to bring her on now, or we can bring her on the next.
No, let's bring her on in.
Let me say this. because we two males sitting here and we talking about child support, that's some type of typical thing, right? Us guys that just don't want to pay child support, they don't want to take care of the kids, blah, blah, deadbeats, right?
The tricky
Cap.
word.
That's cap. Because I got a special treatment. Guess for y'all, the people in the comments that say these types of things about this is a male thing. Well, I'm gonna bring in someone that I coached. I helped coach. She's very smart. She. Damn it. Y'all know it's a female. Yes, it's a female perspective. Okay. We not. There's no biased shit going on because when you're dealing with these guys,
they don't give
a fuck. No. They don't care. They after your bank. They after your money because they get incentivized by doing this, and they will destroy your entire family to get that bag.
No, and they don't care. And I've said it many times for me because I know I've been on child support. I've experienced child support on both ends of the spectrum. I've been the person that they came after.
Right.
My daughter's mother got into some legal troubles. They came and took my daughter. I went and got her. So then the cash aid, the food stamps, the Medi-Cal, it now comes to me. So what did? They
reversed it.
They went right after her.
Damn.
So they don't play the gender role. They don't care. All they care about is those incentives and bringing that bonus in. That's it.
Absolutely. So with that being said, her situation is not isolated. This is what's going on across America, guys. Once they get you to volunteer, or once they get you caught up in a system, they have this default system that they use. They have this way of manipulating you. And if you're not a person that study or willing to fight, you can just leave this shit alone. This is not for the people that don't want to put up a fight or at least stand up for themselves. So when people come to us, hey, look, that's the first thing I ask them, straight up. If you're not willing to deal with what's in front of you, leave these people alone.
Leave them people alone, man.
Leave them alone.
Leave them people alone.
Because
you remember how Trey, when they was driving, when Dope and Boys in the Hood, when they was going to do their thing because
what'd he say?
They done kill Ricky. Doe, let me out.
Let me out.
Let me out, Doe.
Let me out.
Like, man, if you gonna be Trey and you ain't gonna be willing to go all the way, get out, do your stuff, get out the car, and then kick them while they down, leave them people alone, man.
So that's what it is, because she knows, like I know.
Let's bring her in, man. Let's bring her in.
This is Nikki. She's gonna tell you a little bit about her situation. I'm gonna ask her questions. She's gonna tell you a little bit about her situation. So anyway, how you doing, Nikki?
I'm doing good.
We can't even hear you. My bad. There we go. There we go.
We in the game now. So how's everything?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, okay.
So, being that you was a part of this bullshit we call child support, and how they came after you, and what's so unique about your situation is that you have your children living with you, and they still came after you. But how did they come after you? How did you even get involved in it? Like to kind of.
I didn't even know I was involved in it at all. I knew by the worker calling me, like a worker, and she was telling me that on this date, the court is going to put in final judgment and garnish this much wages from your account. Dang. And I'm like, wait a minute, like that's 50% of my paycheck. And I was like, this doesn't make sense to me. And they said, well, you were served. I was like, served when? So she gave me the date and time. And I was like, how can I be served on this date at that time? And I'm at work. So I was like, okay, this is something wrong here. And she didn't even know the situation at all. She didn't even have it all together. She was just like, well, I'm like, how did I get put on it? And she said, well, the father had filed aid back in April. And I'm like, wait a minute, it's November. So I'm like, okay, wait, how did he file for aid? He said he received the kids majority of the time. And I said, well, that's a lie, because my kids live with me. Wow. And he lives in a whole different county.
Wow.
So how can you apply for San Bernardino County when you live in a whole different other county? So she was confused. She had to put me online with the supervisor. They had to call me back. And I was like, okay, something ain't right here. So she had to send me information about what's going on. She was like, here, this is what I want you to do. I had to write every step down, what she was telling me to do to fight this. So I was like, so you're telling me I have to sit here and fight something that's untrue and hurry up before they take my paycheck? Well, what if they take it? Can I get it back? And they said, no, I can't get it back. And I was like, are you insane? Like, I have to sit here and fight, try to hurry up, get my case seen before this many days, because she said I had this many days and it's automatic. And then I was like, okay, this is not fair at all. I didn't even know nothing about it. You guys are barely calling me. They know where I work. They figured out where I lived. They figured out everything. They had my social security, everything. And I was just like, how is this possible? And they said that, well, it's because the father filed. And then I was like, well, that's fraud. He filed on fraud cases. Then no one looks into this. No one checks to see where the kids are really are. No one checks to see any court, because it's all public record, right? Court documents are public record. So you can look it up and look at the case information and see that the kids are with the mother. So they said it's out of that. They don't check that. That's out of their hands. They just check who files.
Wait. So you're saying they called you a few days before an actual hearing, before a judgment was about to be made?
The judgment was already made. They said they're going to start December 1st. She's notifying me like December 1st, they're taking out the money out of your check. And I was like, yeah, right.
so they called you and said, we're going to be taking money out of your account effective this date, but they didn't call you for the actual hearings? Like,
no, it was already in final judgment. They were calling me because I had so much back pay. So picture back child support all the way from April. So they were calling me like back child support, like, and so it's not even 50% of your paycheck, it's 50% plus more what you already owe. Right. So I was just like, you guys I'm paying the child support that you guys you're wanting me to pay. And then I have to pay off what I owe. I was like, that shouldn't even exist.
So let's run this back. So you technically paying child support for children that lives with you. Damn. They stooped to another low, but it's crazy that they called her after they did all this shit. Now, we know that something had to happen. Rather, they allegedly served you something that put into their system to where they had to call her. Wouldn't that be? You ever got served? Did you get served?
No. So they told me I was served on this date, this time, and I said, well, who was that? Can I contact that person? And they said, well, that's a third party we hire to go out and serve people. And I was like, well, that person is wrong. And they specifically said they handed the paperwork to a female at the door. And I said, well, nobody's home at my house at that time. So how can you serve me? So that's what made them put it in final judgment, is because they said I was served. But it's funny because when they send me like stuff, they said it's like neglect and on my part, inherence to my part, and I was being neglectful, excusable neglect, they told me. And I was just like, wow.
Just a little another fancy word that don't mean shit. What you was going to say? I know you was going to say something.
I was going to say, I mean, it's similar to my situation and many others. They said that they served you at a specific day, specific time, which in my case, I later proved that the house that they said that they served me at was vacant.
Damn.
I subpoenaed the owner of the home and Los Angeles Department of Water and Power to come testify that on this day, the owner said that on this day, I didn't have any tenants there. LADWP said on this day, we didn't have no service there.
We didn't have power there. We didn't have power at the house, but these motherfuckers.
Because a default is their best friend.
Exactly. So this is their bread and butter, defaults, guys. Bread and butter. They live off of that shit. Okay, so it's important to respond back to them. But this is what I want to say. that they have a pattern of practice, okay, of these alleged signatures that just mysteriously appears on the document that shows I was served at this time and this is the person. In your case, you wasn't even home, but they still said they served you, correct?
Correct.
So,
That's why I was in final judgment. So they were able to put it in default and start garnishments because of that person who said they served me.
So you never got served. So you didn't even know what was going on. You never. And the crazy part is
the craziest part is that they called her and said, "We about to start taking your money." Like that is crazy.
But not only her money, it was like over 50% of her money. So they taking out the money. So I'm gonna set this. I'm taking care of the kids. I'm at home. I have a job.
Okay.
Someone comes and take over 50% of my income that I use to take care of my household, my lights, and my children.
Right.
How in the fuck? This is how I tell you, they don't care. So why do you give a fuck about these people? Like, go and stand your ground. Don't worry about, just go and get as much tools that you need in education and put it to use because they do not care. Here it is. She could have lost everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And made the situation worse.
And that's because child support.
Right.
Like they make it child support. It's like, why don't you want to take care of your kids? So they come in and take.
With no regards.
With no regard.
We know. So okay, so they said they serve you. Did you, and this is how they started everything. So how did you, what was the next step, I guess? What happened? Like, okay, well, you didn't serve me, but they're getting ready to do the shit they about to do to you, about to start taking your money. So how did you, what's going on? How did you get them to back the fuck up?
I called you.
Bam, one credit guy.
You know, like, look what happened. Like, you will not believe. And it's like shocker. So following your steps, like I had to go make sure, okay, I had to take off work. I was like, okay, I have to take off work. I have to try to get an emergency hearing before, because I was only so many days out. I was like, the first is around the corner. So I was like, okay, that's in a couple weeks. So I had to hurry up and try to gather all my evidence. So I had to sit here and prove to them that I had to get documentation. Like, here's the court documents. I have custody. Here is a letter from my job telling me my attendance and how I didn't get off until after the time they served me. So there was no way of me being home at that time. And then I had to show that, those are the two things that they live up here. So I had to show proof that go to my kid's school or show proof that their address was here. So I was like, okay, I had to get an emergency hearing. They said, oh, well, we can't give you we don't do, at first they were like, we don't do emergency hearings for child support. And I said, oh, you're going to do one today.
It's called an ex parte. They do them all the time.
This isn't, so they're like,
it's a misrepresentation of facts.
Right.
Right. They was like, well, we have so many people. We don't know if like it's going to take this many days to get you a court hearing. And then some lady in self-service was just like telling me, oh, let me help you out. And she was like, oh, you need to do this. Like, she was like, good. And then I was like, okay. So I went upstairs and then I said, I need emergency hearing. Here's all my proof. Basically showing them my proof. The judge was like automatically, they gave me the hearing after I put in all the paperwork. They gave me the hearing in a couple days. And I was like, okay, cool. Another day to take off.
Right. So you got to lose more money.
Losing money, time, energy. I'm telling you.
Okay. So you provided evidence showing that the kids live with you. Mm-hmm. You provided evidence showing that you were at work when they said they served you at home, or you was at another place when they served you somewhere else.
Right.
When you provided them that evidence in the actual hearing, what was their response to that?
Well, at first, they were going to schedule me for another hearing because they said I need to bring evidence. I was ahead of the game. I said, oh, no, I brought that today.
Good job.
That's why I'm here for you to see today. Like, I didn't schedule this emergency hearing for you to tell me what I need to do. I needed to schedule this meeting for you guys to dismiss the case. And they kept using this word, well, we'll just modify. And I was like, modify? What does that mean? And then they said they needed the father present. So they needed to notify the father to also hear his side and have him come to court. So we're going to schedule this date. And it was like in 30 days. And then so right now we'll do an emergency pause, basically on the garnishments will hurry up and ineffective today. Right. And that's, I was like, so you're telling me I have to run around, make sure my job gets this paper before they do it by the 1st, like to make that. So I had to get a letter that I was like, well, I need this effective ASAP, because in the system, I don't know how long it's going to take for the system to stop the payment. So I need this effective now. So the judge agreed, and he said, we'll just pause this and modify it to 0 for now. And then we'll hear this case back in January. And I said, okay. And that's when they paused it. So I had to get that letter. I had to go to to their supervisors, because they're there. Their child support is there.
Right, of course, like, in the same building.
They're there in the same building, and the supervisors are there. So I was like, I need that letter effective ACE today. And so I had to rip and run. And I don't live in San Bernardino. Right. So like, I'm like going over, like traveling, like, okay, trying to stop it.
It's very inconvenience. Okay. But this is why I wanted to get a woman's perspective, because women's very assertive. You see how she's like, no, I need today. No, nope, not tomorrow, today. This is what we're saying about when you're dealing with these people. You have to be just as aggressive like they are to you when they get ready to take your money and do the shit that they're doing to you. So you have to demand certain things, because you don't work for them. No. You don't work for them. No. So they had you running around, losing money and time, energy. And remember, guys, I understand dealing with this shit, it takes a toll. And mind Definitely. You, she has to deal with her kids and go to school.
Right.
During this process.
During the whole process.
Because she's trying to prevent these motherfuckers from stealing the money.
Because the kids live with her. And they're coming after her for child support because someone said that they have the kids more than her, but the kids reside with her.
Yeah.
At school, in a close proximity to her home, and the other parent is in a whole nother county.
So this is the thing. How ridiculous that shit sound. It's not reasonable for people to go through this shit, but this is what we have to go through.
And it's called prima facie, and I said it before.
Yep.
So they take whatever someone files to be true and correct. It is your burden to provide evidence to say otherwise.
Which is crazy. Because
my evidence wasn't even efficient.
So wait, what? What do you mean?
No. So now
what do you mean?
Now let's go to how did you get these people to back the fuck up off of you once you start providing the evidence? And not only you provide, let me just say this real quick. She said something that was very important. She said custody.
Custody. I caught that.
Right? She said custody. So mind you, we're playing family court here and child support over here, right? Child support runs off of prima facie evidence, which they don't give a fuck, first in line, first in time. Mm-hmm. That's why it's fraud, bro. That's why it ain't my opinion, but if it was my opinion, it's fucking fraud. And these people that's committing these types of fucking crimes, violations, they need to be held accountable, whether that's civil lawsuits or take their ass to jail.
So you said something else just now. You said that your evidence wasn't sufficient. Like, what do you mean by that?
So after I submitted, like the judge was telling me, bring evidence the next court date, but I already was ahead of the game and I gave it to them the day of the emergency hearing. So of course, child support received my, looked at the evidence and stuff. So they sent right before the court date in January, they sent me their response. So basically their response was, they have basically of a family code, they have the right to put it in judgment based off of my neglect. And they said, also, I provided evidence that I was not at the place of time they served me. It was insufficient.
Holy crap.
So their letter said that my evidence was insufficient.
But they acknowledged that you brought evidence that you wasn't there, right?
They said it was not sufficient to overcome the process of the server's
but this is what I'm saying.
declaration.
This is what I'm saying. They admitted that she did provide evidence that she was not there.
Mm-hmm.
She was not there, but it's insufficient because they're going off of
the
process server.
Process server,
because it's under
penalty of perjury.
Right?
Right.
Okay.
That's what they said.
So they lied. They lied right on their own shit. They lied.
So I just want to paint this picture. So you provided evidence showing that the kids reside with you, they go to school, buy your house, you have custody of the kids, and you were not served. You were at a place, they served you somewhere else. All of that information, and they said that, well, we see that that's correct, but it's not sufficient because the process server certified under penalty of perjury that this proof of service is correct.
They asked me if I had more evidence I can bring in.
And what I say,
and I was like,
fuck them.
Okay.
Go back and deal with what they just put on that paper. You stand right there on your square, and because the service was defective, it was over. At that point, it was over. And they knew that. And they were trying to see how maybe they can manipulate you a little bit more by just writing 2 more sentences, but not knowing that she's an educator. Dumbasses.
Wow. So
you end up getting your case dismissed, or you got to dismiss. And not only that you got to dismiss.
The father didn't show up. So they didn't even, when I was there, they weren't even prepared for my case at all.
Of course not.
So when I showed up, the judge was like, okay, so what evidence did you bring? And I said, I already brought it. I submitted it already to the court. And I was like, I have it right in front of me if you don't have it right in front of you, or if they don't have it, because they're right next to me and they're like trying to say, hold on a second, and trying to bring it up. And I was like, we're not even prepared. Like, you guys hear so many cases today. You guys are just saying the same thing over and over, every case. So she told me that the judge already automatically was like, yeah, we're just going to go ahead. And he disagreed because they wanted to keep it open. And he disagreed. The judge disagreed. And he said, we're just going to modify this to 0. And hearing that word, like modify, like, I'm just like, wait a minute. Modify? Why modify what? It shouldn't even got started, just dismissed. Right. And then the attorney goes, yes, let's go ahead and modify that to 0. It's like they're not hearing me say dismiss. And I was like, okay. And he goes, okay, Ms. Williams, thank you. And was telling me I can leave now. And I said, no. Well, you keep saying modify. I don't want it modified. I want it to make it never existed. So it should be dismissed. So is it going to be dismissed? And he said, yes, ma'am. And I was like, okay, because if I come back here and I see modified, like, this case is still open.
So you got it dismissed and not modified. That's the biggest key there, is throw this shit out. Okay, but not only is throw it out, we had talked, but some under penalty of perjury, and they kept going.
Yeah.
What you gonna say?
Great job.
Yes.
Great job. Great job. Because they would have let you walk right out of there under a modification to 0, and at any point the other parent woke up out on the left side of the bed, he could have went back in and then opened it up back up, and then you would have been going through this all over again. Great job for standing your ground, fighting for your rights, and getting this erroneous case dismissed, which it never should have been open in the first place. I salute you and commend you.
Appreciate you.
Yeah.
So
thank you.
Thank you for sharing that information with everybody. Appreciate you, Nikki. So yeah, we'll talk to you soon.
So,
Okay, thank you.
thank you very much. Appreciate it. So, hearing this information, the question is child support fraud?
That's for y'all to judge, not for me, because I already know what it is.
You decide. Let us know in the comments. We'll be back. We're going to
Yes.
wrap it up. Mr. Child Support is Fraud.
You already know it's One Credit Guy. I'm in the building. We signing off episode 2.
And this is the Is Child Support Fraud Show.
Oh, grab the book.
Oh, yeah. Grab the book. How I
Grab
Stop
it.
Child Support Legally is available on childsupportisfraud.com. Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, we signing off, man. Stay
Be back.
blessed. Stay
Episode
blessed.
2. Hey.
Peace. Yeah.